Alright, so in this video, we're going to learn what I call finisher stretches. These are stretches that I use to transition from one area of the body to the other after I've done some myofascial release and deep tissue work right to that area. So let's say that I'm working on the leg and I finish working on it. I can use some of these stretches I'm about to show to help integrate all the work into the rest of the body and also just transition and make it easier and less abrupt to just drop the leg and move on to something else. So all of these stretches are really great ways to incorporate some softer work into your deep tissue sessions and also integrative work. So we're going to show a couple different stretches on this lovely guest client of ours, Yvonne, that I like to use to transition after I do deep tissue work on an area. It's sometimes nice to just throw in a kind of stretch to smooth it out at the end and allow you to finish working on a limb or an area and then move on to something else. So imagine I had just done a bunch of deep tissue work on her legs. I have a really favorite stretch for the small glutes and also the lateral line of the leg. You can grab the ankle nicely, and I'm just cupping it. I'm not holding it tightly. I'm just letting it rest right in my hand. My fingertips are not engaged. And I can draw this gently across the body. The goal here is that you don't tilt the pelvis with it. And so you may have to ask, can you see if you can drop your right hip onto the table? Good. Now the other thing you'll notice as you do this is that her foot will start to want to invert, and I can actually draw it into eversion to increase the stretch down there. Now I'm basically going to allow those small glutes, glute medius, glute minimus, to kind of slowly get used to this. I can traction away to make sure she doesn't fire her QL to protect all that. And I can just very gently move this over like this, keeping her from pointing the foot, keeping her from inverting the ankle. And that just helps stretch this whole lateral line of her leg. Now, if I wanted to make this active, I can now ask her to try to resist me by basically trying to draw her leg back across that way while I resist her. So drop your leg. There we go. Okay, so I've got her here. I've got a nice stretch going. So I'm gonna have you try and push your lateral malleolus out that direction, making sure to keep the right hip on the table. There you go. And you should feel that right in your side hip, the small glutes. And you can give a count, or you can just kind of feel it out for about 10 seconds and then ask her to let it go. And go ahead and release that. And as she releases it, you should feel like you can very slowly and gently increase until you feel a little resistance. And now I'm going to have her fire again, trying to push this lateral malleolus out that way. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release it. And then you don't want to try to shove through as soon as they release. There's like sort of a period where it needs a second to let go, and then you'll feel it start to want to open up more. And we started with her basically being able to maybe get to this angle, and now we've already gotten her more open. So I'm gonna have her do that one more time. Good. Now one last variation I sometimes throw in on the table is once I've got this stretch happening all through this lateral line, I'm now gonna gently bend the knee and turn it into more of a glute stretch and more of a QL lumbar stretch. And so I can draw this across this way very gently. I'm not trying to push into her end range. I'm actually sitting about 10 to 15% behind her end range and letting that space soften so that she opens up without feeling like she needs to resist. And for a last little way to make sure that you're getting the right thing, you can gently place a palm right on her lower ribs to keep her from twisting. And that way you're really getting the twist in the lumbar. Keep breathing. Scale of 1 to 10, how intense is that stretch feeling?
6, 7.
Great. And the 6, 7's perfectly fine, because when we started, I mean, she's got way more range of motion than when we started, but we didn't have to make it awful. Good. And then you can just shake it out. Another stretch I like to do to finish out, especially with people with tight hamstrings, is a PNF style hamstring stretch. And I started doing this a long time ago when I had a yoga teacher as a client. And I went to go do a stretch like this, and she sort of laughed and said, "Oh, don't bother, I can put my leg way above my head." And I said, "Really?" And I blocked out the leg and tractioned it and went up and made sure that she wasn't using her back or changing her pelvis at all. And her actual range of motion was about to here. And so then what we can do is we can place this here. I've now got an easy place that I can make sure that she's not bending her knee, and I can even add in a little bit of a calf stretch. So now I'm gonna have her try to extend through the heel without lifting this hip. I want you to try to cut my arm off with your leg. So go ahead and try and slice like scissors right down through me. There you go. Yep, so firing the hamstring, the upper hamstring. Good, 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 good. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let it go. And now, as she lets go, I can come up here and now turn it into the start of a real stretch. All right, so take a few breaths there, and now I'm gonna have you again try and extend through the heel and chop my arm off. Don't lift the hip. Keep the hip right on the table. Now you're firing the hamstring. Good. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let it go. Okay. And now we're getting somewhere.
I could go there.
Didn't know you could do that, did you? All right, let's do one more. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let go. Hey, there we go. And what I'm feeling for is, where does her knee start to go, oh no, I have to bend? And so far, we're really not there. So the truth is, your hamstrings are not all that tight. Let's try one more. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let go. Ah, look at you. You didn't know you could do that, did you?
Actually, yeah.
All right, and we'll take that and shake it out and take a break. And notice with all of these stretches, I'm using tools that aren't grabbing. I'm trying to rest her limbs on me in gravity so that she doesn't ever feel like I'm forcing her to do anything. So we're next going to do a stretch for the entire leg. It's a quad stretch. It's a bunch of different things going on, but basically what I'm looking for is, can I hinge ankle, knee, and hip in a straight line without the knee wanting to go off in one direction, without the ankle changing? And what is the range of motion for her to do that? And so we can come up to about here. She's not bad. Some clients, you start to go like this and want to get all 3 joints to hinge. So notice the hip is hinging, the knee is hinging, the ankle's hinging, all in the exact same line. We want that function, right? We want to be able to do this without some sort of external rotation or internal rotation. She's not bad, but we can make this more by coming up here, putting her foot right on my chest, leaning in, and now what I want you to do is you're going to keep your hip down, don't lift your hip at all. You're going to try and push me off the table using your heel, not your toes. So push your heel into me, good, and push me away. And you can make sure, now notice she's wanting to internally rotate her knee, so you can just kind of keep it from doing that. So push, 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 and let go. And as she lets go, we can let that come in more. And go ahead and push again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let that go. Ah, nice. And one more. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let go. Good. Didn't know you could do that, did you? And so let's see, on this side, I can see that hip wanting to hike up a little bit in this, so try and keep the hip down. And we'll just come up here. Good. Okay, push this heel into me and try to push me off the table. Push, 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 and let go. Nice. Take a deep breath. Breathe out. Nice. And let go. And one more. And let go. Nice work. And you'll notice with varying clients that either their knee will go off in one direction, or their hip will roll in another direction, or their ankle will twist. And you just want to try to keep all those joints moving so that all the hinges are in straight lines as you're stretching that open. Because this is a very necessary functional movement, is just being able to hinge in those three ways. Cool. All right, so now we're going to do a hip socket set of stretches, right? And so you can put a palm on the bottom of the foot, put your arm under the knee, and notice I'm not grabbing with either of these. And this allows me to use my body to see what is her ability to circularly move in the hip socket. All right, she's not terrible, but what I'm looking for here is, what is her range? Do any catch points show up? And am I able to do this without taking her pelvis with it? And what I do notice is, as I come out here, instead of the adductors letting go, her pelvis rotates to allow her leg to do that. So for certain, some inner thigh stretches are going to work here. All right, so that's the first assessment, is just what's going on in the hip socket. Am I able to do 360? What limitations do I feel in that circle? Do I notice catch points along the way? And we want to remember that the hip wheel has 18 muscles surrounding the bone here that affect the hip. And so you can think of this as varying slices of degrees. And you don't really want to try to stretch deeply and then roll in a circle, because then you're asking one muscle to stretch to its maximum and then the next one right next to it to jump to a full stretch without any lead up at all. And so you can pick an angle, right? And I can just put the foot on the bolster. I'm going to take this hand and gently traction her ASIS, and I can pick an angle and stretch. And that's a basic, just simple passive stretch. Now if I want to make it active, I can ask her to push her knee sideways out into my hand. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let that go. And that should open up a little bit more. Now, we're going to have a bunch of these, so you could spend time on each angle if you really want to, but notice now I'm going to change the angle slightly. So that was straight across. Now we're going to change the angle this way and get a slightly different muscle. And I could make this active, but I just want to show all the angles. So that's another one. And I want to return to neutral before I go into the next angle. So now I'm going to pick another one that's roughly drawing knee to shoulder. And I'm always tractioning the ASIS to keep her from lifting her hip in this motion. I want to make sure that that's not happening. So we got this angle, that angle, that angle, and then we can do straight up, which we did a big stretch for before. Now, to start to make the circle come out and switch from the abductors to the adductors, we can now draw this out, and now I'm going to traction the opposite ASIS. And I can actually use my body to rest this on it so that she doesn't feel like she's going to fall. And so I'm going to keep going on the clock. So we had sort of 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. Now this is 1 o'clock. And with any of these, if you feel like it's really stuck or you need to make it deeper, you can ask her to then resist and try to draw this knee from 1 o'clock down to 7 o'clock. So let's try that here. Nice. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let go. And again, I'm not trying to shove her leg down. I'm just following it to where it wants to go. So there's 1 o'clock. I'm going to draw back to neutral. Come out to roughly 2 o'clock. Draw that back to neutral. Come back out to 3 o'clock. And you could even do 4 o'clock in this position. And if you're feeling like she's pretty open, even though she claims to be super tight, she's reasonably open. Not a lot of clients will allow this. But if you feel like there's a lot of resistance, you can gently place a hand under the leg just to give it the feeling of some support. And I'm just resting my body here, suggesting movement without forcing movement. Nice. And then I can check again. How does that feel? See if you can just drop your leg in space. Oh, that's definitely more open. Right, and keep in mind the angles. We did sort of 9 o'clock. You could do 8 o'clock. But as you start getting down in the clock, you're getting out into extension, and that doesn't really stretch much of anything. So it's mostly from here to here that you really are trying to get things done. So last but not least, I talked about if you're checking that circle, right? And you find, see if you can just let your leg drop. I got you. I'm not gonna like yank you anywhere. If you find something that feels like a little catch point, right there for me, I feel like. Do you agree with that? That there's sort of something right in there? So sometimes that is a partial scar tissue on the labrum. And there's a way to traction. So here's the socket, here's the ball. So traction the ball in the socket to stretch the labrum. I learned this from a really great chiropractor. It is totally within our massage therapy licensure to do it. And basically the goal here is I'm gonna take the femur and I'm gonna press into the socket and then try to roll gently through the labrum. So I found that angle that I caught as a catch point. I'm gonna keep the femur right on that angle. I'm gonna try to place my body such that I'm pushing straight down through the femur, just like that. And you can kind of just hang out here for a little while, and you might feel something shift, you might not. You kind of have to just trust that like 10 or 15 seconds of that might actually make a difference. Just drop your leg again, drop it, drop it, drop it. And let's just see, is that catch point smoother? Why, yes, it is. So let's imagine that there's kind of one right there, right? So now I can leave her leg there, come around. And again, I'm gonna find an angle where I can traction the femur straight down through the ball and just hang out there for maybe 10 to 12 seconds. Good. And let's see if you can drop that. That's definitely more open. Especially this one out here. So the last PNF style stretch that I sometimes use is for the scalenes. So after I do some actual work on the muscles, if I still feel like there's a lot of resistance in them, this is often a really good way to get them open. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna gently let her head rest in my hands, and I can pick angles. I'm going to bring her head sideways until I meet resistance. Now this hand is gonna gently go under her neck, and this forearm is gonna block her head from going anywhere. What I'm gonna have you do now is I'm gonna have you try and bring your right ear to your right shoulder, and I'm not gonna let you do that. And I don't want you to lift your head off the table. I want you to try to slide it along. All right, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let go. And as she lets go, like all these PNF style stretches, you wait for the opening to happen and you just follow it down. All right, and again, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let go. There it goes. And again, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There it goes, there it goes. And if you really feel like you want to, you can even bring in a hand here just to keep the shoulder blade down. So let's do one more like that. Go ahead and bring the right ear to the right shoulder. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let go. Good. So that definitely increased in range. Now we got to balance her out. And keep in mind, I did that almost directly sideways, but you can change angles of the head and get varying scalenes, which you'll get better and better at noticing which ones. The next stretch I want to show that I do as a finishing stretch, I often do towards the end of a session, and it's going to be a spinal twist stretch on the table. And I've had lots of variations of this over the years. At one point I used to use my foot and block out the pelvis and draw the arm across, which works. But I found a passive version that doesn't require the client to do anything. So the way that this is going to work is whichever side of the table on, you're stretching the opposite side of the spine. So I'm going to start with her right side. I'm going to take her left arm and I'm going to move it out of the way. I'm going to take her right arm and I'm going to bend and cross it over her chest. I can now use her humerus as a lever with her shoulder, and I can rock. I'm using my leg back here behind me so that I'm not using my back to do that, right? And I'm just going to gently rock her into a subtle twist until I can easily get this hand here. So now I'm switching and holding the shoulder, and this lower forearm matches her humerus, which allows me to take this hand out here and slide it underneath her ribs. This leg is going to come up for balance just to keep me, and then this hand is going to go either to her lower ribs to start, and then I can drop that leg to twist here where my tapping finger is. And I can ask the client to just breathe into that tapping finger. Now keep in mind, I'm really not using a lot of arm strength for this. This has so much to do with my back leg being behind me and counterbalancing. And then if that starts to open up, you can put this hand here, slide a little further down, and then use a hand on the ASIS and have the stretch go lower into the lumbar. Keep breathing. Nice. How'd that feel? Hopefully after I do that, what I can see is that when I go and jostle the legs, that the pelvis and the lumbar actually can do a nice little figure 8 movement. This would be after I did a bunch of work on the muscles themselves, but it's a really nice finisher. Nice work. All right, so there you have some really great transitional stretches that you can use to finish off areas of the body, to transition from one area of the body to the other, and also to integrate deeper work into the entire body. If you liked these stretches and want to learn more, please subscribe to our channel, boop the like button so that you can learn more and see when we release new videos. And we hope to see you soon. Have a great day.